Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. So for today's video we are turning up the heat, and hence the LED's color have changed to be fiery hot. And so we are looking at really exploring how is the Sage versus the Scholar in terms of the DPS kit complexity. So we're going to be talking about openers, we're going to be talking about just like the 60-second raid buff window, what we're looking at between the two healers, and really sussing out the details of the complexities between both. Is Sage necessarily more complicated than the Scholar? And so we're going to be exploring that, and the results might excite, surprise, and or cripplingly demoralize you depending on how you take it. So now we're to the informational part of the video, and the camera is off just because I really want to conserve screen space and use it for like the information. Still learning, guys. Some people are just like, oh, we want it on all the time. Others are just like, oh, you should turn it off. This is a learning process for me, I'm sorry. I will learn at some point. But I do want to say, because we are in an information part of the guide, that Scholar versus Sage is actually a topic that I have gone into absolutely revolting, disgusting, microscopic levels of detail with on my website, FFXIV, and this is just going to be under Scholar versus Sage. This video in and of itself is actually just a tiny blip of that. If you want to check that out, that is totally there. Don't worry, no ads, no paywalls, no BS, no frills. I just want to get the information to people. But back to the point at hand, and let's be frank, Scholar and Sage largely share the same DPS toolkits. Scholar and Sage get the same single target spammable ability with a 1.5 second cast time called Broil or Dosis. They also share the 30-second damage over time effect Biolysis and Eucrasian Dosis. In spite of the pressing Eucrasia to get Eucrasian Dosis, it is really essentially the exact same thing. Where the two healers really start to change up is, and we're going to talk about the Sage first, is that the Sage gets the skill Phlegma. That is a very cool on global cooldown burst ability that can stack up to 2 charges, meaning that you in your opener can use it twice. Powerful? Oh my god, yeah. And one key element of being a good Sage player is holding your Phlegma until key raid buff windows are opening up. And I have a diagram on screen here, and basically you either get 1 Phlegma charge per raid buff window or 2 Phlegma charges for the raid buff window in the opener, or every 3 minutes thereafter. So the opener in reality looks like what I have on the screen now for the Sage. But what this still leaves us at is that outside of these 2 additional on global cooldown casts of Phlegma, that the Sage is for all intents and purposes literally spamming doses, like a lot of doses. You can certainly say that the enemies are getting a taste of the Sage's medicine, a dose of the medicine. Now people may say though that I am ignoring Pneuma, and I most certainly am not here. Pneuma is an incredible skill. It is something I look forward to using a lot, but it is not adding more damage, and so I treat it more like a special burst healing and mitigation tool rather than a DPS tool. They added DPS to it, the exact same DPS as Dosis, and that's just so you don't lose DPS. And since this is an on GCD cast, which is nice, the developers are like, you know what, you won't lose DPS if you use this for healing. But on the flip side, you're not gaining DPS if you're just throwing it out there. Really using it in an opener or during a raid buff window where there's not really a healing or mitigation need is really doing yourself a disservice, since it is so powerful healing mitigation wise that it's going to cost you down the line when you actually need that heal. Then you don't have the option to like heal and do the damage. It just comes to bite you later down is what I'm getting at. Now to the counterpart to Phlegma is that the Scholar gets 2 major means to add damage to the party. First up, we're talking about Chain Stratagem, which isn't, how to say it, the too long didn't read version of it is it makes the party hit the boss much harder, so the Scholar gives up a fraction of its own personal DPS to pass it off to the party members. This is going to be a very important off global cooldown to weave in the opener and every second raid buff window, just because its cooldown is 2 minutes, and it must be aligned with other raid buffs such as the Ninja's iconic trick attack, which is like the de facto raid theory of like the raid buff window. Management of this is very important because Chain Stratagem can either be incredibly powerful or honestly super scuffed. So this should always be on your mind as a Scholar and is such an important part of your DPS contribution. Now the next thing is Energy Drain, and oh boy, when it was first removed in Shadowbringers did we complain. Energy Drain though is an off global cooldown, so it's not on the global cooldown, and you weave that for 100 potency of damage, just straight up 100 potency of damage. And does that seem small? Yes, but the power is really in the details of this skill. The short version of the story is Scholar and Sage get 2 charge-based systems that they can spend charges on skills. This is going to be the Adder's Gall for the Sage and Aetherflow for the Scholar. The Scholar's Aetherflow system has a spender called Energy Drain that is going to be a damage spender of this system, meaning that the Scholar should almost never be sitting on charges when Aetherflow is off of cooldown. You should be pumping those out, always flowing out the charges. Aetherflow flows. How corny is that to say? Oh god. Yeah, when you see Aetherflow coming off of cooldown in like 10 seconds, your brain should be thinking, huh, I still have 3 charges left. I should be just dumping it into Energy Drain for more damage. Sage, however, has no such spender for damage in their system, nothing even close. It doesn't exist. So the total sum result is that the Scholar player needs to learn their own comfort level, and this is going to be very much which group you're in dependent level, and really choose between 2 very different openers. Reality is you're going to choose something in the middle, probably be depending on where you are with prog, but either they do an Aetherflow conservation method with no energy drain usage to keep Aetherflow in reserve for the future healing, which is especially relevant during progression, or the Scholar does Aetherflow dumping method, in which they potentially slam out 6 energy drains in their opener on top of dropping Chain Stratagem. So 3 from Aetherflow, other 3 from Dissipation, just in case people were wondering why I said 6. Let's also think about future raid buff windows. The cooldown of Aetherflow being 60 seconds means that this really totally combines together that the Scholar as a whole will have potentially 300 additional damage potency every 60-second window of raid buff. And through 3 off GCD weaves, it's actually a little busy. And so, do I recommend this as something that people are going to wonder, oh, Cole's recommending you always do that? No. Buyer beware, in my opinion, because Aetherflow heals are really strong. Like, Sacred Soil is busted. Like, if you can do this, if this is something you choose, totally do it, but buyer beware. So now let's start wrapping up this video and compare them directly. And be very real here. When the Scholar is pumping energy drains and chain stratagems off of their global cooldown, that is, a pretty involved window. There is a lot of on GCD broils happening, and is your GCD going to change much? No, it's going to be broil, but your off global cooldown window is constantly being rammed with skills, which makes the off global cooldown window incomparably more complicated than the Sage. The Sage doesn't really have anything to that level, specifically off of the global cooldown window. Talking Dissipation's going off and the works, everything that we were just talking about. It's busy, but that does come at the consequence that you're burning powerful healing gas just for this. Just because you can during prog doesn't mean you should. Unironically, years ago people said that to me. Oh my god, Heaven's Word was an interesting time. The turnaround is that for Sage, it is at minimum 1 additional cast of Phlegma on the global cooldown during a raid buff window. Any raid buff window, at least 1. Or 2 during the opener, or 2 for every 3rd raid buff window is guaranteed divergent cast from just a spam of doses, which obviously I think is going to feel really good to me and many other players. But taking a step back, when we are super honest with ourselves, when push comes to shove, the Sage has a lot more rigid of a kit. And what I mean by rigid is that you are guaranteed to need to cast Phlegma and will always have it available as an option, since really it's its own independent skill. Not tied to Aetherflow, Adder's Gall, or whatever, you will always have to cast Phlegma. In the same light, the Sage's Adder's Gall healing system is more locked down since you have no damage spenders on it. It's not an option. And this makes the Sage compared to the Scholar significantly more defined out and rigid. Have very clear paths to healing and damage defined for you. A Sage won't, for instance, claim that they suspected that they could inch out a touch more DPS, so their healing was a little bit lower, which resulted in a wipe for the group. I'm gonna hear that from a Sage. It really brings me to closing up this video on this topic, which really is the question of which of the 2 is really more engaging. I suspect will largely be preference based. Do you prefer off GCD? Do you prefer on GCD? Can you do it as a Scholar, or do you need to use that for Aetherflow? To mention, do you like Chain Stratagem management? Do you like buffing the party? All of these are going to be very important questions to ask. Anyhow, I'm closing off this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. I am actually genuinely curious. That's all for this video. Take care and be safe, everyone.